back. Today we're going to continue the work on the interior by looking into that broken choke lever bezel on the center console. I see it right there. Now the first thing I've done is disengage the electrical system by shutting the master arm, master electrical to off. If you saw my electrical video, you saw I installed a master, and watch as I open the door. The kick panel lights do not go on. Full electricity is confirmed as off. Let's set auxiliary lights here. Okay. All right. Now, I've already started disassembling a lot of this. There are three oval slot screws, one here, and another in this position on the far side. In order also to remove things, I've had to take the chrome screws here off of the gate and release that. This was already free. The cigarette lighter pulls out and can be removed. Always pop these up, the electrical connections for the switches for the electrical windows, and take photographs, several photographs of this wiring. You're going to have to disconnect and reconnect it in order to get it off. I haven't found a way otherwise. So, opening up this, I see that this broken console is the choke bezel in the console has its parts right down in here. Somebody was kind enough to leave the remnants of it there. So that's something we'll be fixing today too. Also, I've got a magnetic tray here to hold all the parts too. I also have a stock of selections too. Here we have Ferrari's unobtainium, nearly perfect, and chrome. You slap your favorite wax or ceramic coating on this and drop it in that horizontal position will be absolutely wonderful. These are concourse correct and they look stunning. He also has produced the bezels called unscratchable, and they are super durable. Now I use this whenever someone any privateer produces parts like that. I like to support them. I bought several quantities of these for the cars, and I used it in the restoration of 05082, but I did keep the original pitted and patinaed bezel lever for 05082, and I'm going to use it here because I'm looking for a preservation award. You can see some of the colors are great in this, but there's a little degradation in the surface where it's been rubbed, and of course the pitting and the bumps on it are going to look really nice right inside there. So how do you get this off? Though the first thing to do in removing it is 3 oval slot screws from here down here, and then one on the other side also. Then you have, depending on which model, you have either slot or Phillips head screws securing the gate of the shifter. You're going to have to take that off in order to get it off. Now, in order to remove the gearing, you're either going to have to manhandle it and unscrew it, or to remove it there, come up with the key. There is a key tool for that. I was able to manhandle it. I didn't take that off too much. The air conditioning will have to start coming off with the knobs. Find the Allen head. There's a light. Get the light in there. Access hole right there, and use a 2mm Allen wrench. Unscrew that on both, which I've already done, and those will come off. Again, your magnetic tray is your friend. Place them in there. Use a wrench to start that, just to break it free, and do everything else to remove these by hand. You want to be gentle with those. You'll also have to worry about indexing those later, but I didn't like how these were indexed anyhow, so I'm going to pop that out. Let's remove our gate. Can we get it past there one-handed while filming? Oh, yes. Okay, put that on the bottom. This is already broken and free. And I have the electrical connections. I'm going to be right back with those. Okay, taking the console over to the bench, first thing I want to do is clean up this cigarette tray. I see it's pretty darned rusty in there, and I want to start getting some metal polish in there as soon as possible and clean that up. The rest of it looks pretty good. Let's get a nice plush microfiber to set this on, and we'll begin our repair. All right, back at the workbench, I've got distracted from the bezel by the cigarette lighter, just removing the parts to get the console out. I noticed how horrible it was, and I've tried a couple things to no avail. I have steel wool, 000 and 000, using this lightly. I've also used a brake cleaner with and a degreaser with a bristle brush, not a metal brush, a bristle brush, and it still retained the rusted surface look on the bottom. So I used brake cleaner as a final wipe down to make sure everything's clean, and then I did something drastic, and that's I shot it with Duplicolor CS101, a chrome spray enamel. And look at the results. This is absolutely stunning. The bottom, I'm just covering all the corrosion that was underneath there that I couldn't get. It wouldn't flake out or anything. And you can see the original BOM, the Italian manufacturing BOM. There we go. Where you come and give it a little contrast there. Those stampings are now visible. The bottom is still pitted, as well as this top area here. It still has the pitting. But as far as restoration, I don't have to send this out for chroming or anything. I don't have to source those super small rivets in the disassembly and reassembling. And this is good enough where it looks amazing. That's rust underneath there and everything. And I'm sure it'll start flaking off before long. But as far as a Concours and a patinaed preservation class, that will be fine. And right now I've solved the ability for that rust to proceed further by locking it in on here too. So this is very impressive with Duplicolor Chrome. There's a hot tip for you. That is not properly restored metal or chrome. That's just paint right over it. So now that we have our tray restored, the ashtray restored, why did we take so much trouble to get that so shiny and everything? Because there is a small light in the ashtray that when this fits in, right like that, and the door is open, that light comes on. There we go. And that closes like that. Did that one-handed. Now, I've already been in here, and I have changed this out to an LED. Remember, in order to change this light bulb, the whole console has to come out. And I've chosen a couple. They're DE3175 sized. Here's the old incandescent. Even though the original one is operational, everything, I'm switching over to LED. Number one, it's in very close proximity, so the LED will be lower heat. And number two, this one is the brightest one. And with that small aperture and red lens, you can see that there's a red lens there. You want the brightest possible for that. So now we have the shiny tray reflecting the red light from that lens. All right, we're knocking projects down in the center console. We started to address the choke lever broken bezel, got as far as the ashtray, the electrical wiring on the back, enhanced the ground, as well as added an LED light, LED. And now we've noticed that the cigarette lighter has never worked in the car. And I wanted to add some tips on restoring it. First of all, before you take it out, do not pull it out the front. Don't yank it out. The proper way is to go underneath. You have to lift, just like the tray illumination light. You have to take the console off to do this. You pop up the grounding strap and pull the retention spring out, and that allows you to pull it up and the spring out from under it. From there, you'll disassemble it. I've already done that here in exploded view, but I wanted to make sure I made that point about removal first. Now, the parts of this were actually messed with by a previous person, and they pushed the washers, they doubled the washers in the inside of the cup. This is the exploded view, and they also allowed the spring retention. Now, this spring, of course, is the mounting spring. This is the pop-up spring, right? See, as I push that, I don't want to push it past the detent. Well, why not? At this point, it's a great point. Watch the detent here, right? When I go click, there, that's a click, and it is now locked in the heated position. These 3 tabs are your set points. Time adjustment and release adjustment are indicated and activated at the 3 tabs position here. If you want the cigarette lighter to remain glowing longer, you need to push them in and make the springing action just a little tighter on the thermocouple. You have a thermocouple shaft which heats up and it expands, and that causes the release of the spring tension and the popping out. All right, to reassemble, we're going to make sure the cup is spaced correctly. The previous owner had put a couple of these washers inside here, and the effect of that, and here's your spring setting for the return on the cigarette lighter, is the cup was spaced far too out, and the spring could not make contact, so it was basically limp, didn't do anything. You push in and didn't even light, didn't even return. So you could see that somebody messed up with that. You need to make sure that you have 1 washer inside, then the phenolic washer group inside the cup, then another phenolic washer group, insulating washer, and then another washer and retaining fastener. Let's put that in. All right. Boy, it goes so much faster than talking about it. Okay, let's secure this down. And of course, once we're through with this console, it's just going to be right as new. Light tension. You do not want to secure this. You just want to firm it up until the core starts spinning. Now, we have an ultra funky device here, which amazed me. I had to think about what was going on here. I have a connector at the end that goes to my positive terminal. Your 12 volts comes in here, and your grounding wire will attach here to the casing with its claws to the base. So power comes through here, and the spade is not connected to the eyelet. You'd think you'd have a spade and eyelet all in one casting, pop the plastic in, you're done. No, it comes out the side here. The spade connects to the side here. Let's see if we can get some good reflection, where you have a double strap of copper on the outside and stainless steel, spring steel on the inside. The copper has an extra tab which comes up to the eyelet and is soldered there. In essence, this is a fusible link. Apparently, if you run so much current through this, this is a last gasp effort to save it, and it heats up. The spring steel will push the copper strap out as soon as it's available and loose. The solder loosens up and allows that strap to depart. Spring steel pushes it out and it breaks the contact. That is hokey as can be. Also created a copper link to cover it, And this way, the spade will always be connected to the eyelet. Now, get our assembly. Right back there. Brass screws. All right, tighten this. Before I mounted the electrical grounding, I decided to use sandpaper, 150 grit, to clean up the brass terminals there. So we have great contact. Slip that in. Let's take it to the bench. All right, I have a 5 amp automotive fuse, and I've already set the Brico, so I can just connect it here. And let's see, 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, 4 1000, 5 1000, 6 1000, 7 1000, 8 1000, 9 1000, 10 1000, 11 1000, 12 1000, 13 1000, 14 1000, 15 1000. That's about enough for a Concord judge to see it, don't you feel? Everything works great. The ashtray has been restored. The lighting for the ashtray has been restored and upgraded to LEDs. The ground circuit has been cleaned up, tightened up, and a new fastener installed. The Brico ISRAM cigarette lighter has been overhauled, and now finally we can get to the topic of this. If you didn't think Dinos were a cascading effort of tasks, well, this is the truth. Let's get this in, and we can now come to the failed section here, address the structure as well as the broken bezel which caused it. You can see where the departed portion. So we're going to put that right back there and glue it with Bondic in preparation. I've swabbed, cleaned these with alcohol, as well as sanded the top surfaces here on both ends. Spread the Bondic and then use the UV light to cure it. Bondic takes 5 seconds in each area. Come down the sides too to cure. The Bondic repair is finished. The warping of the panel, the plastic panel, will allow the Bondic to fill in some height there too. So I was actually thinking that it might fail again in an aluminum plate. I do have some light stock aluminum plate over by the side that would be reinforcing. Then I noticed something else. So I was moving around the fourth mounting plate, mounting point here. Can I do this with the camera? There we go. I found that. And that was never used, which led me to look at the vinyl, and this has been recovered. I can tell that because the vinyl grain should go fore and aft on this. So looking online, the reason I'm not going to do any more repairs on this is, number one, it's barely adequate. Number two, online at Ferrari Parts Exchange and other retailers, you can buy the plastic under reproduction consoles for $200, $199 at Ferrari Parts Exchange. And I have a nice big roll of the original Dino vinyl that I buy from World Upholstery in Santa Paula, California. Mike and Jamie have been working with them for a long time, and they have great materials for the Dino at reasonable prices for Dinos, and that's where I'm going to go with the project. We're going to reassemble now, get everything back together, and use this as it is until the new parts come in and change it out. Now, I also noticed as part of it, the 3 screws that were coming out were the original oval slot screws that had been painted black. They were missing the cups, so I painted new screws and new cups, and will also be installing those on the feet. These I mentioned because they're so easy, and they're grain too. Well, real motivation to change all these to be correct is they're so easy for Concord judges to see. As we start reassembly, notice I've added new fasteners here on the underside of the tray here, because these are all part of the electrical contact path. They're cleaned up. I've used Verth OL as an antioxidant and preservative on that. So now we can move on to inserting the cigarette lighter. And this is a correct way. You come afterwards with the spring on the inside and negotiate the mounting tab on the side. Push this in. All right, the spring is holding it. Here's our positive terminal and our negative. Now we'll fit the bezel in, and we'll have to assemble that with the cable in the car. So let's take it to the car and install the rest of it. All right, taking the center console to the car, reattaching the electrical, both the ground and the power for the illumination light, the power and the ground for the cigarette lighter. I've reinstalled the air conditioning switch, but I've left the capillary tube based out. We'll get that just before we put it in, as well as these window switches. So we're ready to install the cable back into its position there. The best way to set it in its console is by pivoting the feet down at the console first and then over the shift. All right, the console has to be leaned down back in first to be slid in. The cable is very difficult to attach at this point. You'll have to loosen it up before. All right, that's installed. Light for the cigarette ashtray is working fine. The Brico cigarette lighter cigar lighter just kicked off. Everything's ready to go, and we will wait. Now we did a install with the proper slot screws and cups on all 4 points, so the concourse judges will find it right. So that's what it takes to remove, repair, and address issues in your center console for Ferrari 246 GTS Dino.